All right. Hi, everyone. Good evening. I'm Saudi. I'm a Thrive Coach from FuelFit. Welcome to another episode of Google Autocomplete Showdown. Each week, we will type in some keywords regarding health and fitness to see what is the most searched based on the autocomplete Google gives us. And this week, we have is intermittent fasting harmful? All right. Okay. So this is actually a topic that was well requested by everyone. Okay. So let me just hop on to my slides. All right, so if you are here joining us live, please let me know in the comments. All right, okay. And if you have any questions along the way, please feel free to type it in the comments as well. And for those of you who are catching it later on, feel free to leave some comments as well. I will try my best to answer them later on. All right, okay. So I hope you can hear me well. If you can hear me well, do let me know in the comments as well. All right. And of course, if you like our videos, do give us a like and subscribe. All right, okay, so let me just hop on to my slides. Okay, so hang on. Okay, so like I mentioned, today we're going to talk about intermittent fasting. All right, okay, so it's actually quite a commonly asked question, all right, from all my students. So since I'm going to answer the question all the time, I decided that, okay, let's do it once and for all over here, okay? So I guess even though the topic is intermittent fasting, is it harmful? But you notice that there are actually quite a lot of questions about intermittent fasting. Is it effective? Is it sustainable? Is it good for weight loss, etc.? Okay, so I'm going to try to answer as many questions as possible today. Okay, so if you look at intermittent fasting, if you really go and search, you will see all different books talking about it. All right, so these are some of the books that have been really promoting intermittent fasting. All right, okay. Essentially, intermittent fasting is really just a predetermined period of time where an individual purposely doesn't eat any food, all right, which is fasting, right? Okay. So before I go on to talk about how it works, or rather whether it's actually working in terms of weight management or any other benefits, and whether there are any harm to doing it, okay, I'm going to just run through some of the very common protocols that all these intermittent fasting people talk about, right? Okay, so the first one is called the 16-8 method. So this is quite commonly used. Basically, you fast for about 16 hours and then you only eat for about 8 hours, all right? However, it's quite commonly, well, based on research, or rather based on the results that have been shared by some people, okay, is we realize that women, if they fast for 16 hours, is not the most beneficial. So for women, maybe about 14 to 15 hours instead, and they will feed during a 10-hour window instead. Okay, so how does this look like? Basically, it looks something like this. Okay, in a day, you notice that they'll be fasting when they're asleep, basically, and then instead of breakfast, the first meal of the day is probably lunchtime at around 12. Okay, and then they try to finish the last meal by 8. That will give you a 16 hour of fasting and 8 hour of feeding. All right, okay, so this is quite a common one, which is called a 16-8 method. Okay, and then just let me take a look at who is here with us. Oh, okay, hi Vanita. Okay, so as we go on, so this is the 16-8 method, which is probably one of the common ones used now. Okay, next one is called the warrior diet. This is another popular one. Okay, essentially you are only available, you're only allowed to eat for 4 hours window. 4 hours window. Okay, so these 4 hours, you actually have this one huge meal. However, throughout the day, during the day, you're actually allowed to eat small amounts of vegetables and fruits. Okay, so this is what the warrior diet looks like. Okay, so you can have small amounts of food in terms of vegetables and fruits. Okay, and then you actually have one big meal from about 4 to 8. Okay, so you finish by 8 and then you go back into fasting. All right, okay, so this is what the warrior diet looks like. Okay, then we have the 5-2. Okay, so you notice that the warrior diet and the 16-8 goes by a daily schedule kind of thing. Okay, the next 3 protocol, right, is more like a weekly schedule. All right, okay, so for the 5-2, you actually eat normally for 5 days, and then you restrict calories for 2 days of the week. Okay, and these 2 days, right, for female, you're only going to take about 500 calories, and for male, it takes 600 calories. and you can actually break it up into 2 smaller meals, all right? Okay, so it looks something like this in the grand scheme of things. So this is just an example. So imagine if you're gonna eat normally on Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday, but then you actually do some sort of a fast on Tuesday and Friday where you only take 2 small meals, okay, which is about 300 calories for the gentlemen and 250 calories for the women. Okay, just to give you a sense of what that is, basically about 250 calories, you can take about 3 boiled eggs, which is actually quite decent, right? But that's all you're gonna have that day, two times. Well, if you're gonna eat nothing else but eggs, there will be 6 eggs in that day, that's all right? Okay, so this is the 5-2 diet. Okay, then there's another one which is basically eat, stop, eat. Okay, this one, instead of having a small calorie meal, it actually requires you to fast for 24 hours. All right, and of course during this period, during the fasting period, you can have a water, caffeine, any other zero calorie beverages are allowed, but you can't have solid food. All right, okay. So again, it looks something like this, just like the 5-2, except that the day 2 and day 5, instead of having a small amount of calories, you actually have 0. It's a pure 24-hour fast. All right, okay. And then there's the 5th one, which I'm not going to talk about, is actually alternate day fasting. Basically, if Monday I eat normally, Tuesday I will fast, Wednesday I will eat normally, and so on and so forth. All right, so it's just alternate day fasting, 24 hours as well. Okay, so these are the commonly used protocol out there, and I believe you might have heard of some of them. So if you've heard of some of them, please let me know in the comments as well. All right, if you have tried any of them as well, please let me know too. All right, okay. So personally, I've actually tried the 16-8, and I've had some clients try that as well, and especially the women, pretty mixed results. Okay, it doesn't seem to work so well for the women. It works better for the men. But for women, it actually does mess up your hormones a little bit. I'm going to talk about that in a while. Okay, so basically these are the commonly used intermittent fasting protocol. All right, okay. So before I talk about the harm that intermittent fasting may bring, all right, so from now on, I'm just going to call it IF. Okay, it's just a mouthful. Okay, so obviously there must be some benefits. That's why, you know, it's so trendy, right? Okay, I'm sure you've heard of some friends or family who tried IF and they have very, very good results. Okay, so is the result worth it, and how does it come about? I'm going to talk about it now. All right, okay. So, okay, fasting, right, is kind of like an evolutionary thing that we're built in. All right, so if you talk about our forefathers, like many thousand years ago, we do have it's kind of built in us to fast. All right, when we fast, actually a lot of things happen, a lot of good things happen to our body. All right, for example, you do improve your metabolism. Okay, your blood sugar does get lowered. In fact, you also have less inflammation. So less inflammation, right, will mean some of the diseases that's caused by inflammation will be reduced. So for example, your arthritis or even asthma. All right, okay. And of course, there are certain doctors who actually tout that fasting could help with cancer as well. But because I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to do any claims. But there are some doctors who do recommend fasting as a form of part of a whole suite of treatment for it. All right, okay. So these are the benefits of fasting. Okay. So, but most of you, I'm sure you're here to ask about this question, whether it works for weight management. All right, whether IF works for weight management. Okay, so this is a research that was done in 2017. Okay, they got 100 overweight people. Okay, and then they split them into 3 groups. So these 3 groups, one group, they are just restricted calorie intake. Okay, so it's normal. Like if I give you a meal plan, instead of having 1,008 calories, I give you 1,005 calories to eat, for example. All right, so this is one group. They're just restricting daily calorie intake. Okay, and then the second group, they actually do fasting on alternate days. Remember, just I mentioned. So, for example, Monday I eat normally, Tuesday I fast, Wednesday I eat normally, and so on and so forth. All right, and then they have a third group, which is a control group, where they just have normal eating habits. All right, so we have the 3 groups. So, want to make a guess? What happens? Okay, what happens? Do you think the restricted calorie group has the biggest weight loss, or is it the fasting group that has the biggest weight loss, or the normal eating habits people? All right, okay. So I'll just wait for a little bit, see if anybody want to make a guess. Okay. All right. Okay. So I don't know whether you guessed it. So what happened is after 12 months, all right, after 12 months, both the calorie restricted group and the fasting group lost weight compared to the normal eating habits, of course. All right. So both of the diet groups lost weight. Okay. However, the fasting group actually did not do significantly better than the conventional calorie cutters. Okay, so what does this mean? Okay, what does this mean? So it means that essentially IF can help you when it comes to weight management. All right. However, there's a few things. Okay. The first one is you have to make sure there's calorie deficit. All right. What does this mean is on the days you eat, you don't go for buffets or just eat non-stop, like enough to cover 2 days, right? So you eat normally. You need to make sure there's a calorie deficit overall. Okay. In fact, in between the fasting periods, right, in between meals, you really don't snack at all. Okay, what happens during this period when you're fasted, right? Okay, your insulin levels actually do go down. Okay, and what happens? Your fat cells will start to release the stored energy. Okay, or stored sugar to be used as energy. So therefore, it really helps you to manage your weight by burning fat. All right. Okay. So when you fast, your insulin level goes down low enough for fat burning to happen, basically. All right. Okay. So again, we want to make sure there's no cheating per se when we do your fasting, and then there must be an overall calorie deficit. Okay. And so the people who have been talking about how IF is so awesome and given brilliant results, right, is really because of the calorie deficit more so than anything. However, why is it so popular? It's because it is really much simpler to implement. So for example, if I ask you to count calories, it can be quite tedious, right? Counting calories can be quite tedious. And on top of that, it's not very accurate, okay? However, if I'm just simply removing meals, then it's much easier to attain a calorie deficit, all right? So that's why IF has been, very trendy, simply because it is so much easier to implement, regardless of your lifestyle, all right, so to speak. Okay, so far, this is what we have, whether it works for weight management, okay? However, okay, notice this research, right, did alternate day fasting. Okay, alternate day fasting, which means 24-hour fast each time. Okay, so fasting for full days is really tough to maintain for most people. So even if you're able to do IF for a while, right, what's going to happen is if you can't sustain it for a long time, it's not going to work, right? It's going to come back and bite you. And then I'm going to talk about some of the adverse effects of IF because of this. All right, okay. Okay, so what is a good alternative instead? Okay, so for some people will say, okay, so we can't do full day. How about we do the 16-8? Okay, how about we do warrior diet, for example? Okay, yes, those are possible, but we have research results that show that, okay, instead of just relying on the 16-8 or the warrior diet 4-hour time frame, okay, we are going to use this other approach called the circadian rhythm fasting approach. Okay, what this means, okay, you're going to restrict your eating to 8 to 10 hours, very similar to the 16-8. However, this approach is going to be more strict on the time frame of your feeding window. All right. So 16-8 allows you to eat any 8 hours, but this one recommends that you only eat in the 8 to 10 hours when it's daytime. All right. So why? Okay. So basically, our metabolism has been adapted to function in a way daytime equals to eating and there's food, whereas nighttime is sleeping time, right? Okay, so you want to really avoid eating at night. Okay, in fact, if you always like to snack at night or eat late at night, it does associate with higher risk of obesity and diabetes as well. All right, so those of you who really enjoy supper, this is a message for you. All right, okay. So how do we function and what is the result from this? So this is a research just 2 years ago, 3 years ago in 2018, all right? So they did this on a group of pre-diabetic men, all right? Okay, so they had 2 groups. One group did early time restricted feeding, which means all their meals will fit into an early 8-hour period from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m., okay? And then group 2, they get to eat over 12 hours, from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. All right, so obviously they have longer time to eat, right? Okay, so what do you think is the result of these two groups when they came back with the results, right? Okay, so both groups actually maintain their weight, which means there's actually no weight loss, all right? There's actually no weight loss. However, after just 5 weeks, right, the group that ate for 8 hours a day, what happened? Their insulin levels actually dropped dramatically, okay? Their insulin sensitivity improved tremendously. Okay, so this is very good news for pre-diabetic patients, right? If you don't remember, I was talking about last week about diabetes, all right, about blood sugar, you know, do check out last week's video, okay? And then it also helps with lowering your blood pressure, and more importantly, it helps you to decrease your appetite, all right? So what this means is, okay, just by adjusting the timing of the meals, okay, by eating earlier in the day and extending the overnight fast, right, okay, it actually really helps you with your metabolism, right? Even if you don't lose any weight, it actually improves your metabolic health. And that is far more important, to be honest, all right, because we want to avoid all these metabolic syndrome diseases, all right, okay? So basically, to make it work for you, IF, you want to time your eating period and fasting period, all right, okay? So to make sure that your IF is as effective as possible, when it's time to eat, okay, you also want to make good choices, all right? Okay, you want to make sure that you are not having all your sugars and refined grains as much as possible, okay? Adopt a more sensible plant-based Mediterranean style diet. So lots of fruits, lots of vegetables, beans, whole grains, lean proteins, and plenty of healthy fats as well, all right? So when we do IF, doesn't mean when it's time to eat, you can just eat anything you want. Of course, you can, but then of course the result is going to reflect that, all right? Okay, so you want to be mindful about the quality of the food you are taking as well, all right? Okay, okay, then when you are fasting, okay, if you can, try to be active, try to move around. It doesn't need to be very intense exercise, okay? It doesn't need to be very intense exercise, but you want to be active throughout your day, all right? Okay, so you can just be dancing, you can just be doing some easy lightweight training, you can just play some football or basketball, any sports that you like as well. The main thing is to stay active throughout the day, all right? Okay, for those of you who are interested in, you know, getting a hard workout in, right, then I would suggest that you try to put your workout just before your feeding window or just after your feeding window, all right? Okay, so that you have enough, can replenish your energy quickly after your hard workout, okay? Or you might make sure you have energy before your workout. Okay, so generally I will recommend if you want to do fasted training, do the cardio, and then if you want to do strength training, especially heavy strength work, do it after your feeding period, all right? Okay, okay. Then you want to fast according to the circadian rhythm as well, okay? So limit the hours of eating during the earlier time in the day, okay? So it can be between 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. or even 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. So we're looking for 8 hours, and these 8 hours ideally should be when there's daylight, all right? So I know for some countries, you know, your day can be very long, but because we're here in the equator in Singapore, pretty fixed, okay? Our sunset normally happens around 7:30. So try to keep your eating period when it's daylight, all right? Okay, okay. And then the last tip for you to make sure that IF is successful is to really not go to the fridge and take out a snack or eat any supper at night, all right? Okay, so you want to be straight about that, even though, you know, we already said you are going to avoid eating at night, right? Okay, but sometimes the temptation is there, we know that. So try your very best not to open the fridge at night, all right? Okay, okay, so far I've gone through how it works, and let me just take a look and see whether there's any questions. All right, okay, let's move on. Okay, so the question, the topic of today is supposed to be this, is is IF harmful, all right? So there can be some potential issues when we do IF, all right? Okay, so the first one, side effects. Okay, when you first start, you're definitely going to have some headache or lethargy, all right? Simply because you're not used to feeling hungry, all right? And it can get quite cranky as well for you, okay? Constipation is quite a common one as well, okay? But actually, This can be overcome because after a few days you kind of get used to it, then it will kind of go away. However, the rest of the potential issues will be more chronic, and you might want to consider them before you actually embark on IF. All right. The first one is the rebound overeating. Okay, so I'm going to talk about this later. Who shouldn't try IF? And one of them is actually if you know that you cannot control your binge eating. All right, you are the kind who will do revenge eating, right? Okay, then IF is really not for you. All right. What happens is a lot of people, they think they can do it. All right, so they will go on this fasting period, but when it's time to eat, they just go all out. All right, so the rebound overeating is really, really bad, and this is especially so in women. All right, in fact, what is found is for women, when it's time to eat, because they are so hungry, they tend to crave for carbohydrates. So in the end, instead of helping you, it ends up being backfire, because instead of having your protein, you end up having a lot of carbs instead. All right, okay, which is kind of linked to your potential muscle loss point. Okay, so for those of you who have the tendency to have binge eating, then really seriously consider other options instead of IF. All right, okay. When you do IF, it could also lead to poor sleeping quality. All right, okay, you may not be as rested, and not being rested, of course, will lead to higher stress. And also, we also know that if you are tired, okay, you tend to make not so great decisions along the day as well. So you want to make sure you are well rested, and IF doesn't really help with that for some people. All right, so it does affect your sleep. Okay, then of course you are eating less throughout the day, and some people may not have good choices for the food, then they end up with fewer nutrients. Okay, and then if you're not giving yourself enough calories and you're not training at all, you're totally sedentary, then it's potential muscle loss. Okay, and the last point which I want to really touch on is because a lot of people don't find IF sustainable because of the social element. Okay, we know that most gatherings happen for dinners, not so much for breakfast and lunch. Of course, you can change that. Okay, a lot of social engagement happens for during dinner time, right? Or sometimes even later than that. So how are you going to get around that? Okay, so of course, for some people say, oh no, I can just do the 16:8, right? And then just shift the time. So if I end up eating really late, then I just start my next day meal much later. Okay, so yeah, potentially you can do that, but only if it works for you, right? Okay, so as always, right, to be honest, there's really no one size fits all. But if you really want to move to a circadian rhythm IF, like I mentioned just now, then if you're going to start ending your day of food by 7 or latest 8, then social life may be affected, but just so that you know. All right, okay, so there is a group of people who shouldn't attempt IF. All right, who shouldn't attempt IF. I already mentioned some of you just now, which is those with a history of eating disorder. All right, so I'm going to go through them. Okay, let me talk about the first group first. Okay, so if you're diabetic, all right, if you're diabetic, you should be probably on medication for diabetes. Then please do not do IF, all right, because the medication is already trying to control your insulin level. If you do fasting, it will mess you up. Okay, so if you really want to try, you must make sure you talk to your doctor first. All right, okay, so try not to attempt. Okay, and then if you're on medication for blood pressure and heart diseases as well, same thing. Fasting will mess it up. All right, you will notice that actually a lot of this medication require you to eat before you take the medication as well. So if you really want to attempt, you need to talk to your doctor, but I highly advise against. All right, okay. And the third group, if you have history of eating disorder, even very, very mild, okay, whether you're anorexic or bulimic, okay, you have history of binge eating and purging after that, all right, we really don't want to do IF because you probably have, there's a lot of other more holistic and helpful options for you instead of fasting, right? Simply because this will not help you in terms of your recovery, right? Or it may actually trigger you to go back to what you used to do, all right? So it's very important to recognize that if you already have a history of eating disorder, do not attempt IF, all right? Okay, and then last one, if you're pregnant or breastfeeding, do not attempt IF as well, because remember, you are breastfeeding, and your baby needs you, so you do not want to be fasted. All right, okay? Simply, yeah. Well, unless you do have a well, if your doctor actually gives you some directive, you may need to cut down your calories a little bit, but it shouldn't be a complete fast. All right, okay? Okay, so essentially, as I always say, when it comes to nutrition, there's really no one-size-fits-all approach, okay? You can try it, okay? You can experiment it. To be honest, really go and experiment, okay? And then listen to your body to determine what feels best and is sustainable for you. The key word is sustainable for you. So if you want to attempt any nutritional protocol, program, anything, right? The first question I always ask my students is, can you do this forever? All right, so if your answer is yes, then go ahead and try it. All right, go ahead and try it and see whether it works for you. If it's giving you results, fantastic. All right, I've heard of many people who are on IF, they get great results, but there are also many people on IF, you know, they flop. So really, IF can work for some people, but it may not work for everyone. So if you've been interested to find out, go try it. All right. In fact, like I mentioned, the protocol that I will recommend will be the one to go according to your circadian rhythm first. All right, which is 8 hours of eating time during daylight. All right. Okay. So that brings an end to my IF presentation. All right. So let me take a look. Any questions? Okay, so yeah, Vanita says you really like the idea of eating during daytime and not nighttime. Yep, fantastic. All right, so just make sure. Yeah, so I think that's quite a good one, right? Okay, it's easy to implement. Okay, no need to overthink it, and just make sure that, you know, even in the daytime you're eating, just have good quality food, basically. All right, okay, so good. Okay. If there's no more questions, okay, so those of you who think of questions later on, you know, feel free to ask later. I will try to respond later, okay? Okay, so just a quick announcement. Okay, so if you find this video very useful, do share this with your friends, all right, okay? And then, of course, like and subscribe to our channel as well. Okay, and if you're not already part of our group, we actually do have a Facebook group where we share many tips and hacks, and we run fitness challenges pretty frequently. All right, you can join us at bit.ly/FBStrongFat. All right, okay. Okay, then I have an announcement. Okay, in March, on the 10th, 11th of March, all right, me and Bernie, okay, we've been invited to be part of this event called Effortless Wellbeing. All right, okay, 2021, we are going to be sharing the stage with world champion, world wushu champion. All right, and his name is Vincent Ng. Okay, for those of you who are in Singapore and you know you watch Chinese drama, he used to be an actor as well. All right, so he's going to be our special guest, and I will be sharing with the stage not just him, but with 7 other professionals and experts in the well-being space as well. All right, okay. So if you're interested to join us in this event, do let me know. Okay, do let me know. Drop me a message. Okay, for the link to sign up for this event. All right, so it's going to happen on the 10th and 11th of March. It's going to be in the evening, 7:30 to 10:30. It's going to be online, so you can join us from any part of the world. Okay, so if you're interested, do hit me up, and I'll send you the link to sign up. Right? In fact, you actually get a chance to win Vincent's book as well. All right, so he's quite an amazing individual. So do come and learn from him. Okay, so that's it from me. Let me just done this. All right, okay, so I hope that you have learned a lot from this episode. Okay, and if you have any other questions, burning questions you want to ask me about health, about fitness, about nutrition, do feel free again to leave in the comments, and I will try my very best to answer it in our next episodes. Okay, so thank you very much for joining me, and I will see you next Thursday for another Google Autocomplete Showdown. Bye-bye.